Get this little welfare baby out of my courtroom before she steals something." Judge Edward Harlan flicked his hand at the 15-year-old black girl like brushing off dirt. The all-white gallery exploded, howling, knee-slapping laughter. A woman clutched her purse tighter. Aaliyah Johnson trembled at the defense table, drowning in a thrift store blazer. Behind her, her father sat shackled in orange. "Your Honor, I'll defend my dad." The room lost it. "Did the monkey say defend?" someone shouted. Harlan glanced at her, lips curled in disgust. "Little girl, go back to whatever hood you crawled out of. This court is for civilized people." Everyone burst into mocking, gloating laughter, but nobody in that courtroom knew what this 15-year-old was hiding. And when she finally revealed it, the judge, the prosecutor, and every person who laughed would never forget her name. 4 months earlier, the Johnson home smelled like burnt toast and possibility. Aaliyah sat at the kitchen table, debate notes spread across the chipped formica surface, while her father, Marcus, poured coffee into mismatched mugs. The morning sun cut through their small East Side apartment, illuminating the walls covered in her debate trophies and her late mother's nursing degree, framed and fading, but still proud. "Are you ready for regionals?" Marcus asked, sliding a plate of slightly charred toast toward her. "Born ready?" Aaliyah grinned, that confident smile that reminded him so much of her mother. "Coach says if I win this one, I'm headed to state." Marcus leaned against the counter, watching his daughter with those eyes that always seemed to carry both pride and worry. He worked 2 jobs, sanitation during the day, volunteering at the Northside Youth Center 3 nights a week, but somehow never missed her debates, never missed parent-teacher conferences, never missed being present. "Your mama would have loved to see this," he said quietly. "You got her mind, Allie, sharp enough to cut through anything and your stubbornness to back it up." He laughed, that deep rumble that filled their small kitchen with warmth. "Stubbornness kept us alive. Baby girl, don't you forget it." 8-year-old Malik stumbled out of the bedroom, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Aaliyah immediately switched into mother mode, a role she'd carried since their mom died 4 years ago. She poured him cereal, checked his homework folder, made sure his inhaler was in his backpack. This was their routine. This was their normal. A father who worked himself to exhaustion, a daughter who raised her brother while maintaining straight A's, and a family that somehow made it work on love and determination when money ran short. The garbage truck rumbled outside, Marcus's cue to leave. "Youth center tonight?" Aaliyah asked. "Basketball program for the kids. Someone's got to show them there's another way, you know." She knew. Her father had spent the last decade trying to prove that their neighborhood wasn't what the news said it was, that black men could be fathers, volunteers, pillars, that they deserved to be seen as human. He kissed both his children on the forehead and headed out the door, work boots heavy on the stairs. Aaliyah had no idea that would be the last normal morning they'd ever have. That evening, she was helping Malik with his math homework when the front door exploded inward. Not a knock, not a warrant announcement, just wood splintering, hinges screaming, and suddenly their living room was full of police officers with guns drawn and flashlights blinding. Marcus Johnson on the ground now. Her father had been sitting on the couch, still in his youth center shirt, a basketball tucked under his arm. He dropped it, hands up instantly, muscle memory from a lifetime of knowing how this worked. "There's been a mistake," Marcus said, voice steady despite the terror in his eyes. "I haven't done anything." Detective Robert Klein stepped forward, yanking Marcus's arms behind his back. The handcuffs clicked with a finality that made Aaliyah's stomach drop. "Marcus Johnson, you're under arrest for armed robbery of Martin's grocery and assault with a deadly weapon." "What?" Aaliyah jumped up, putting herself between the officers and her father. "That's impossible. Dad, tell them." Marcus's eyes locked onto hers, desperate and pleading. "Allie, I swear to God, I didn't do this!" "Yeah, they all say that." Klein hauled Marcus toward the door. "We got 3 witnesses to put you at the scene. The gun matches the description. You're done." "I was at the youth center." Marcus's voice cracked. "There are people who saw me, signed the sheet. I was running the basketball. Save it for the judge, Johnson." Malik started crying, small hands clutching Aaliyah's shirt as police officers trampled through their home, searching drawers, overturning furniture, treating their small sanctuary like a crime scene. Aaliyah watched her father, this man who'd never even gotten a speeding ticket, who volunteered his free time, who raised his children alone with grace and dignity, get dragged out of their home like a criminal. Neighbors pressed against windows, phone cameras recording. Tomorrow, their faces would be on the news. Another black man arrested, another family destroyed. At the door, Marcus turned back, chains rattling. "Ali, listen to me. I didn't do this. You hear me? I didn't do this." "I know, Dad." Her voice didn't shake. Couldn't shake. Malik needed her strong. "I'll fix this. I promise." The door slammed shut. The apartment fell silent except for Malik's sobbing. Aaliyah stood in the wreckage of their living room, her father's coffee mug still on the table from this morning, and made a decision that would change everything. She walked to her bedroom, pulled out her laptop, and began to research. Because if the system wouldn't save her father, she'd have to learn how to save him herself. The county jail visitation room smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Aaliyah sat on a cold plastic chair, separated from her father by thick plexiglass that had been scratched by 1,000 desperate hands before hers. Marcus appeared through the metal door in an orange jumpsuit that hung off his frame. He'd lost weight in just 2 weeks. But it wasn't the weight that made Aaliyah's breath catch. It was the bruises. His left eye was swollen shut. His lip was split. Dark purple marks ran down his neck. "Dad, what happened?" Aaliyah pressed her hand against the glass. Marcus picked up the phone receiver with shaking hands. "It's nothing, baby girl. Just don't lie to me." He exhaled slowly, the sound crackling through the cheap speaker. "Someone spread a rumor. Said I did things to kids. You know how it goes in here. Child predators don't last long." Aaliyah's vision blurred with rage. "But you're not. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they believe." Marcus's good eye met hers. "Protective custody ain't protecting much. I can't survive 6 weeks here, Allie. I just can't." She watched her father, this strong man who'd raised 2 children alone, who'd never shown weakness, break down crying through prison plexiglass. "I'll get you out," Aaliyah whispered. "I promise." "How?" "You're 15. Emily's trying, but she's got 5 minutes for my case. The system don't care about the truth. It cares about convictions. Then I'll make it care." Marcus looked at his daughter, saw something in her eyes that scared and amazed him. "Baby, you can't fight this. Watch me." The phone clicked. The time was up. A guard yanked Marcus away. Aaliyah watched her father shuffle back through the metal door in chains, moving like a man who'd already accepted his fate. She refused to accept it. That night, Aaliyah sat at the public library's computer, diving into District Attorney Richard Harlan's record. What she found made her stomach turn. Harlan had prosecuted 47 cases in 3 years, 43 convictions. Every single one involved black defendants accused of crimes in or near white neighborhoods. Every single one relied heavily on eyewitness testimony. She clicked through news articles, court records, appeal denials. The pattern was undeniable. Then she found it. A speech Harlan gave at a civic club luncheon 2 years ago. She read his quote 3 times. "Some communities breed crime. Some individuals carry it in their DNA." My job is to protect law-abiding citizens from those who refuse to be civilized. The dog whistle was so loud, it was barely a whistle at all. Aaliyah dug deeper, found that Judge Edward Harlan had been Harlan's mentor, found photos of them at conferences, arms around each other. Caption: "Tough on crime team. They weren't even hiding it. This was a machine and everyone just let it run." She cross-referenced judges who presided over Harlan's cases. Harlan's name appeared on 32 of them, 31 convictions. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. Aaliyah printed everything and walked home through streets that felt different now. Every police car made her flinch. The world had revealed itself as hostile. At home, the eviction notice waited on the kitchen table. 15 days. They were 15 days from losing their apartment. Marcus's paychecks had stopped. Rent was due. Utilities past due. Malik's asthma medication was running low. $70 they didn't have. Aaliyah opened the refrigerator. 3 eggs, half a loaf of bread, a mostly empty jar of peanut butter. Her phone rang, and Aunt Linda. "Baby, I heard about your daddy. This is too much for you to handle alone." "I'm handling it. You're a child, Aaliyah. Let me take Malik for a while. You can focus on school. Let the lawyer do her job. Her job is 5 minutes split between 63 cases. Then let her do those 5 minutes. What can you possibly do that a trained attorney can't?" The question hung in the air. Aaliyah looked at her college applications. Georgetown, Harvard, Yale, all half-finished, all requiring essays about overcoming adversity that now felt like cosmic jokes. "I can care more," Aaliyah said quietly. "I can care more than anyone else in that courtroom. Caring doesn't win cases, baby. Evidence does. Lawyers do. Then I'll find the evidence. I'll become the lawyer." Aunt Linda sighed. "You're throwing your future away." Aaliyah hung up. She sat in darkness, listening to Malik's wheezing breath from the bedroom, feeling the weight of impossible choices crushing her shoulders. She could send Malik to Aunt Linda's, focus on school, let Emily handle the case, watch her father get convicted, watch their family disintegrate, or she could fight. She pulled up a boarding school application for Malik. Good medical care, no cost to families in crisis. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Are you giving up on Daddy?" Aaliyah spun around. Malik stood in the doorway, small and fragile in 2 big pajamas holding his inhaler. "No, baby, never. Mommy used to say you could do anything." Malik climbed into her lap. She was right, wasn't she? Aaliyah looked at her little brother, then at her mother's photo on the wall. That woman who died fighting a system that didn't value her life. "Yeah," Aaliyah whispered, closing the application. She was right. She opened a new window and searched. Can a minor assist in legal defense? The next morning, Aaliyah met Emily at a coffee shop near the courthouse. Emily looked worse than before. Dark circles, coffee-stained blouse, the weight of too many lost battles in her eyes. "I need to be honest with you," Emily said. "The DA offered a plea deal, 8 years instead of potentially 25. My father is innocent. The store owner identified him in a lineup. 3 witnesses place him at the scene. The jury will be mostly white, and Harlan is very good at what he does." Emily finally looked up. "I've been doing this for 12 years. I've learned to recognize which battles I can win, and my dad isn't one of them." Emily's silence was enough. "What if I told you I found timeline inconsistencies? What if the lineup was contaminated? My dad was the only black man who matched the age range. What if Harlan has a pattern of targeting black defendants with weak evidence?" Emily leaned forward. "What are you talking about?" Aaliyah pulled out her folders, organized, color-coded, meticulously researched, police reports with highlighted contradictions, witness statements that didn't align, GPS data from Marcus's work truck, the youth center sign-in sheet with his signature at 10:03 p.m., when the robbery occurred at 10:37. Emily flipped through the pages, her expression shifting from skepticism to surprise to hope. "How did you find all this? I read everything. Every document you gave me, every public record I could access, every case Harlan prosecuted in 5 years." Aaliyah met Emily's eyes. "I know you're overwhelmed, but I have every waking minute until trial." Emily sat back, studying this 15-year-old who'd just presented legal research that would have taken weeks to compile. "Even if this is valid, you can't present it. You're not a lawyer." Rule 1.06 of Criminal Procedure subsection C. Aaliyah said without hesitation, "The court may permit a non-attorney family member to assist in defense when circumstances warrant." Emily blinked. "How do you even know that? State v. Klein, 2019. My daughter helped present evidence. Conviction overturned. That's a technicality almost never granted. And even if I petition, Judge Harlan will humiliate you. He'll make an example of you. Let him try." Emily looked at this child and saw something she'd stopped seeing in herself years ago. Fire. Belief. The dangerous conviction that justice might actually be possible. "If I do this, Harlan will destroy you the moment you make a mistake. He'll mock you, shut you down, probably hold me in contempt. I know your father could get 25 years if we lose. What does he get if we do nothing? 8 years in a cage for a crime he didn't commit." Aaliyah's voice didn't waver. "At least this way we go down fighting." Emily gathered the folders, then looked at Aaliyah with something close to admiration. "You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both," Aaliyah said. "But I'm all my dad has." Emily pulled out her laptop and began typing. "Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget." Aaliyah spread the case files across her bedroom floor at 2:00 in the morning. Her eyes burned from hours of reading, but she couldn't stop. Every page revealed another crack in the prosecution's story. The police report said the robbery occurred at 10:32 p.m., but witness number 1, Michael Hayes, claimed he saw it happen around 10:15. Witness number 2 said close to 10:45. The store's security camera timestamp showed 10:37 p.m. 17 minutes of conflicting testimony. Nobody seemed to notice or nobody cared. Aaliyah highlighted each discrepancy in different colors: red for timeline contradictions, yellow for description inconsistencies, blue for evidence that supported her father's alibi. The store owner described the robber as 6'2". Marcus was 5'9". The weapon was described as a black automatic by one witness, a silver revolver by another, a dark handgun by the third. The amount stolen changed with each statement: $200, $350, $185, and buried in the files, ignored by everyone, was Marcus's work truck GPS data. It showed him at Northside Youth Center from 10:00 to 11:15 p.m. The sign-in sheet confirmed it: Marcus Johnson, 10:03 p.m. Aaliyah leaned back against her bed. 1 contradiction was a mistake. 2 was carelessness. 5 was a pattern. This wasn't evidence. This was a story someone needed to be true. Over the next 3 weeks, Aaliyah transformed her bedroom into a war room. Debate training became cross-examination practice. Her coach, Ms. Ramirez, played hostile witness while Aaliyah refined questions, learned to control tone, never to ask what she didn't already know the answer to. Leading questions on cross. Ms. Ramirez reminded her, "You're not seeking information. You're telling a story through their answers." Aaliyah wrote and rewrote examination outlines, practiced in her mirror, recorded herself to catch nervous habits, voice going up when uncertain, touching her hair when stressed. She eliminated every tell. On weekends, she visited Martin's grocery, timed the walk from the youth center. 12 minutes normal pace, 9 if running, photographed security camera angles, talked to neighborhood residents who remembered that night. 3 people mentioned seeing 2 men leave together after the robbery. The police report only mentioned one. At home, Aaliyah created timeline boards, red string connected contradictions, photographs, witness statements, GPS data. She was building an alternative narrative the prosecution had deliberately ignored. But contradictions weren't enough. She needed legal authority. Hours in the law library led her to Rule 1.06 of criminal procedure. She read State v. Klein 3 times, memorizing the appellate reasoning. A non-attorney family member could assist when circumstances warranted. It had happened before. The law was on her side. She just needed a judge willing to allow it. 1 week before trial, Aaliyah arrived at Emily's office with 3 boxes of organized evidence. Emily looked up, coffee frozen halfway to her mouth. What is all this? Everything they missed. Aaliyah set the boxes down. Timeline contradictions, witness inconsistencies, alibi evidence, legal precedent for my participation. Emily opened the first box. Color-coded folders, each labeled with specific legal issues. She pulled one out. Eyewitness identification problems. Her eyes widened. The lineup photo, Aaliyah said. Look at it. Really look. 6 men against a height chart. 5 were white or Latino. Marcus was the only black man, the only one near the age witnesses described. Textbook contamination, Emily whispered, and nobody objected. Aaliyah pulled another folder. GPS data puts Dad at the youth center. Harlan's timeline ignores it completely. His entire case rests on eyewitnesses who can't agree on when it happened, what the weapon looked like, or how much was stolen. Emily flipped through folders, expressions shifting to anger. Anger at missing this. Anger at a system that made missing it inevitable with 63 cases. How did you find all this? I had time, motivation, nothing to lose. Emily sat back. We need to present this properly. One mistake and Harlan excludes everything. Then we don't make mistakes. This isn't a debate tournament. Harlan will look for any reason. I know. Aaliyah pulled her final folder. That's why I need to question Michael Hayes. Absolutely not. Harlan will never. He will, if you frame it right, appeal to his ego. He'll want to watch me fail. Emily stared at this 15-year-old strategizing like a seasoned attorney. You want him to underestimate you. He already does. Everyone does. That's the advantage. If this backfires, your dad gets 25 years. What happens if we do nothing? 25 anyway, or 8 he doesn't deserve. Aaliyah's voice was steel. At least this way we fight. Emily looked at the evidence boxes, then at Aaliyah's face. She remembered why she'd become a public defender before the system ground her down. Okay, but we do this right. I'll file the motion, prepare you for every objection. She paused. Harlan will try to destroy you. I know. That's what I'm counting on. That's what. And the motion was filed the next morning. Request for minor family member to assist in defense presentation. Word spread through the courthouse. Attorneys laughed over coffee. The Johnson case keeps getting sadder. Harlan called it a desperate publicity stunt. Harlan called Emily to chambers that afternoon, face already red. Are you out of your mind? This is a courtroom, not bring your daughter to work day. The precedent is clear, Your Honor. She's found discrepancies. Then you present them. That's your job. With respect, I'd like the option. I'll allow her to sit at the defense table. Harlan's finger pointed like a weapon. But the moment she opens her mouth inappropriately, I'll hold you in contempt. Clear? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Outside, Aaliyah waited on a hallway bench. You're in, Emily said, but he's going to try to destroy you. I know. Aaliyah stood, straightening her blazer. That's what I'm counting on. Emily studied her. You're really ready? Aaliyah thought about her father's bruised face through plexiglass, Malik's wheezing breath, her mother's unfinished law degree, every person who'd looked at her and seen nothing but a poor black girl from the wrong neighborhood. "I've been ready my whole life," Aaliyah said. "I just didn't know it yet." 48 hours before trial, Aaliyah sat in her library carrel reviewing cross-examination notes. The building was nearly empty, just her and the night security guard. She didn't notice the envelope at first. It appeared while she'd gone to the restroom, a plain manila envelope, unsealed, slipped under her carrel. No name, no markings. Aaliyah looked around. The library was silent. Nobody nearby. Inside was a USB drive. Nothing else. No note, no explanation. Every instinct said this could be a trap, contaminated evidence, a setup. She should give it to Emily, maintain a chain of custody. But curiosity won. She used a public computer, not her laptop, and plugged in the drive. One file, Martin's grocery full security footage, MP4. Her hands trembled as she clicked. Black and white security footage. Time-stamped the night of the robbery. But this wasn't the 32-second clip in the police report. This was 15 full minutes. 10:20 p.m. A white man entered the store. Medium build, baseball cap, browsing aisles like any customer. He matched the general description witnesses gave of the robber. 10:30 p.m. The same man is still there, looking at magazines near the front, glancing at his watch, waiting. 10:37 p.m. A second man entered, purposeful, aggressive, went straight to the counter. 10:39 p.m. The robbery. The second man pulled a gun, demanded money, while the first man, the one who'd been waiting, stood still, watching, not hiding, not afraid, watching like he was supposed to be there. 10:41 p.m. Both men walked out together side by side, got into the same car, parked just out of frame. Aaliyah replayed it 3 times. The police had submitted only 30 seconds, 10:37 to 10:38, showing just the robbery. They'd cut everything before and after. Cut the first man entering and waiting. Cut them leaving together. This wasn't incomplete evidence. This was deliberately edited evidence. The witness, Michael Hayes, had claimed he entered during the robbery, was terrified, had hidden. But this video showed someone entering 10 minutes early, calmly waiting, coordinating. Hayes and the actual robber were working together. Aaliyah enhanced the final frames using library software. The car they walked to, she could make out a partial license plate, LMR4. She cross-referenced the detective's notes. That prefix belonged to a rental company. This wasn't mistaken identity. This was a setup. Hayes and his accomplice committed the robbery. Then Hayes returned to identify a suspect from a contaminated lineup. They picked Marcus because he was the only black man who roughly matched the age range, and the system had been happy to provide him. Aaliyah sat back, staring at the frozen frame. She had proof. Undeniable proof the prosecution's star witness was the real criminal. But she had a problem. Anonymous source. No chain of custody. No way to prove it hadn't been tampered with. If she gave it to Emily now, a judge might exclude it. 3 choices. Give it to Emily and risk exclusion, go public and risk mistrial, or use the information to guide cross-examination without introducing the video. Aaliyah ejected the USB drive and slipped it into her pocket. She wouldn't introduce the video. Not yet. She'd use what she knew to cross-examine Hayes, forcing him to lie under oath about details only someone who'd watched this footage would know. Let him commit to his story, then expose the contradictions. And if that didn't work, she still had the nuclear option. Her mother used to say, "The truth doesn't need tricks, it just needs someone brave enough to speak it." Aaliyah copied the file to a separate drive, deleted her browser history. Tomorrow, Michael Hayes will take the stand, and he had no idea what was waiting for him. The courthouse steps were packed with news vans and protesters when Aaliyah arrived on trial day. Signs waved in the morning air, justice for Marcus Johnson on one side, law and order on the other. Reporters shouted questions she didn't answer. She walked through the metal detectors holding her case files, Emily beside her. Inside the marble floors echoed with footsteps and whispered conversations. Everyone was watching. The courtroom was already full when they entered. Community supporters filled the left side of the gallery. On the right sat courthouse regulars and what looked like Harlan's invited guests, all white, all wearing expressions that said they'd already decided the verdict. Marcus was brought in wearing shackles. When he saw Aaliyah at the defense table, his eyes filled with tears. She gave him a small nod. "Stay strong." Richard Harlan sat at the prosecution table, confident smirk already in place. He dressed for cameras, expensive suit, flag pin on his lapel, the image of righteous authority. All rise. Judge Harlan entered. Everyone stood. He took his seat, surveying the courtroom with obvious annoyance at the crowd. His eyes landed on Aaliyah and stayed there. "Ms. Thompson," Harlan's voice carried across the silent room. "Is this the assistant we discussed?" "Yes, Your Honor. Aaliyah Johnson, the defendant's daughter." Harlan's face hardened. "Let's get one thing clear. This is my courtroom. Any disruption, any outburst from this child, and she's removed immediately. I'll hold you in contempt if she steps out of line." "Understood?" "Understood, Your Honor." "Good." Harlan turned to the jury pool. "Let's begin jury selection." It took 3 hours to seat 12 jurors, 10 white, 2 black. Aaliyah watched Harlan use his peremptory challenges to eliminate every black juror he could. The final panel looked exactly like she'd expected. People who'd never been profiled, never been followed in stores, never had their lives destroyed by a system that saw their skin as evidence of guilt. Opening statements began just before lunch. Harlan stood, buttoned his jacket, and approached the jury box like a man greeting old friends. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is simple. On the night of November 20th, Marcus Johnson walked into Martin's grocery with a gun and terrorized a hard-working business owner. He threatened to kill Mr. Harold Jenkins. He stole $340, and he did it because he thought he could get away with it." Harlan pointed at Marcus. "That man sitting right there. 3 witnesses saw him, identified him. We'll testify under oath. The evidence is overwhelming. The verdict should be swift. That is the face of crime in our community." Several jurors nodded. One woman clutched her purse tighter. Harlan sat down, satisfied. Emily stood for the defense, and Aaliyah could see her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was steady. "Members of the jury, the prosecution wants you to believe this is simple, but nothing about this case is simple. Marcus Johnson is a father, a sanitation worker, a community volunteer with 0 criminal record. On the night in question, he was exactly where he says he was, at the North Side Youth Center running a basketball program for kids." Emily gestured to the evidence table. "We will show you GPS data proving he was there, sign-in sheets with his signature, but more importantly, we'll show you that the prosecution's timeline doesn't add up. Their witnesses contradict each other. Their evidence has holes big enough to drive doubt through." During her statement, Aaliyah passed Emily a note. Emily paused, read it, looked at Aaliyah, then continued, voice stronger. "The prosecution's case rests entirely on eyewitness testimony. But what if those eyes lied? What if this entire case is built on a foundation that crumbles under examination?" Harlan shot to his feet. "Objection. Counsel is making accusations without evidence. Sustained." Harlan glared at Emily. "Ms. Thompson, stick to facts you can prove." "Yes, Your Honor." But Emily had planted the seed. Aaliyah saw 2 jurors exchange glances. After lunch, Harlan called his first witness. The state calls Mr. Harold Jenkins. The store owner walked to the stand. White, 62, nervous but sympathetic. He was sworn in and sat down, hands folded in his lap like a man at church. Harlan took him through the robbery step by step. Jenkins described it in careful detail, voice shaking at the right moments. "I'll never forget that face," Jenkins said, pointing at Marcus. "He looked right at me, said he'd kill me if I called the police." "And you're certain the defendant is the man who robbed you? Absolutely certain that's him." Harlan nodded, satisfied. No further questions. The jury looked convinced. Aaliyah saw it in their faces. This nice old man terrorized in his own store. Their sympathy was already decided. Emily stood for cross-examination. She was gentle, respectful, but firm. "Mr. Jenkins, how long did the robbery last?" "Maybe 2-3 minutes. And the lighting in your store that night?" "Good. I keep it bright for customers. You'd never seen the robber before?" "No, never." Emily established the timeline, got him to confirm details but couldn't shake his identification. Jenkins was too sympathetic, too certain. Then Aaliyah passed another note. Emily read it, hesitated, then asked, "Mr. Jenkins, when did you first call 911? Right after he left? And when did the police arrive? Maybe 15-20 minutes later. During those 15 minutes, did anyone else enter your store?" Jenkins paused. I don't think so. I was pretty shaken up." "You don't think so? Or you're certain?" "Objection?" Harlan said. "Asked and answered." "Sustained." Emily sat down. The seed of doubt was small, but it was there. Harlan called recess for the day. As the courtroom emptied, Harlan approached the defense table, coffee in hand. He accidentally bumped Aaliyah, spilling it across her case files. "Oops, sorry, kid. Didn't see you there." His smile was cruel. "You're so small. People watched, some filmed." Aaliyah calmly pulled her files away, dabbing them with napkins. She looked up at Harlan, her voice steady. "It's okay, Mr. Harlan. I understand. Sometimes when you're focused on the wrong target, you miss what's right in front of you." Harlan's smirk faltered. "You'll see what I mean tomorrow." Aaliyah walked away, leaving him standing there. Tomorrow, Michael Hayes would take the stand, and everything would change. During lunch recess, Aaliyah locked herself in the courthouse bathroom. Finally, alone, she let the weight hit her. Her hands shook as she gripped the sink. Harlan's condescension, Harlan's cruelty, the jury's skeptical faces, Jenkins's testimony that had them nodding. She replayed Harlan's words. Any outburst from this child? What if they were right? What if she was just a 15-year-old playing dress-up, gambling with her father's life on nothing but belief in her own intelligence? What if intelligence wasn't enough? The bathroom door opened. 2 women entered talking. That poor child. Harlan shouldn't be allowed to talk to her that way. She shouldn't be in there at all. It's embarrassing. For who? She's fighting for her daddy. That takes more courage than anything that judge has ever done. Footsteps leaving. Aaliyah looked at her reflection, saw her mother's eyes, heard her voice. "You can do anything, Allie." She washed her face, straightened her blazer, walked out. Emily waited in an empty conference room. "I should have prepared you better for Harlan's hostility." Emily said, "It's fine. Actually, it's perfect." "How is public humiliation perfect? Because now the jury sees him as a bully. When I prove my case, they'll remember." Aaliyah pulled out her notes. "This is strategy, not emotion." Emily studied her. "You're thinking 3 moves ahead. I have to be." Aaliyah laid out her timeline chart. "When Hayes takes the stand, I need to ask the questions. If you're wrong, I'm not wrong. Trust me." Emily looked at the evidence, then at this remarkable girl who'd become the smartest person in the case. "Harlan will never allow it. Frame it as my one chance to participate meaningfully. Appeal to his ego. He'll want to watch me fail publicly." Emily realized what Aaliyah was doing. You want him underestimating you? He already does. Everyone does. That's my weapon. If this backfires, your dad gets 25 years. What happens if we play it safe? 25 anyway. Aaliyah's voice was steel. At least this way we fight. You're not going down. I won't let you. Then help me stand up. In the hallway, Harlan was talking to his assistant, loud enough to be overheard. The girl's a sideshow. Let her play lawyer. Makes our job easier when she falls apart. He saw Aaliyah, walked toward her deliberately, shoulder-checking her. His briefcase knocked her files to the floor. Watch where you're going, kid. Stay in your lane. People stared, some with pity, others with amusement. Aaliyah gathered her papers, stood, and looked at Harlan's retreating back. Let them underestimate her. Tomorrow, they'd learn the truth. Court resumed at 2. The gallery was more packed. Word had spread about the child lawyer. Harlan entered, annoyed by the attention. Emily stood. Your Honor, I have the motion regarding witness examination. Harlan's eyes narrowed. What kind of motion? The defense requests Miss Johnson be permitted to conduct cross-examination of the state's next witness, Michael Hayes. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, laughs. Harlan's face reddened. You cannot be serious. The precedent is clear, Your Honor. Rule 1.06, subsection C, State versus Klein. I know the precedent. Harlan looked at Aaliyah like she was an insect. You want this child to examine a witness? Yes, Your Honor. It's her constitutional right. Harlan leaned back, cruel smile forming. Fine. Let the child have her moment. When it falls apart, we'll proceed with actual attorneys. He turned to the jury. Please bear with us during this irregularity. The jury looked uncomfortable. Harlan hammered his gavel. The state may call its next witness. Harlan stood radiating confidence. The state calls Mr. Michael Hayes. The doors opened. Michael Hayes entered. 34. White, clean-cut, pressed shirt and tie. He looked like every jury's image of an honest citizen. He walked to the witness stand with rehearsed confidence, sworn in, sat down, folded his hands calmly. Harlan took him through direct examination. Hayes described entering the store around 10:35 p.m., seeing a black man matching Marcus's description, terror of watching the robbery, hiding behind a display. I'll never forget his face, Hayes said, looking at Marcus. Those eyes, that's definitely him. The jury was buying it. Hayes was perfect, just nervous enough to seem authentic, detailed enough to seem credible. Harlan finished. Your witness, Miss Johnson. Harlan looked at Aaliyah. Your witness, young lady. Try not to embarrass yourself. The gallery held its breath. Aaliyah stood slowly, gathered her notes, walked to the lectern. Every eye on her. The small black girl in the too big blazer about to question a grown white man who'd already convinced the jury. She adjusted the microphone down. The courtroom waited. Michael Hayes smiled slightly. He had no idea what was coming. Aaliyah's voice came out steady. Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes. Hayes leaned back, dismissive. Afternoon. Thank you for being here. I just have a few questions. Sure, sweetheart. A ripple went through the gallery. The condescension was noted. Aaliyah didn't react. You testified you entered the store around 10:35 p.m., correct? Yes. Not 10:25 or 10:45, but specifically 10:35. Well, around then, but you told the police 10:35 in your statement. You were certain then? I guess so. About that time. So you're less certain now than 3 months ago? Harlan stood. Objection. Argumentative. Ms. Johnson, Harlan said, ask questions. Don't argue. Yes, Your Honor. Aaliyah turned back. You said you ducked behind a display. Which display? The chip display by the coolers. So you were hiding, scared for your life? Yes. Terrified. but you could see the robber clearly enough to identify him months later. He was only a few feet away while hiding behind the chip display. Yes. Aaliyah pulled out a diagram. Your Honor, may I approach? Harlan waved. Proceed. She showed Hayes the diagram. Jurors leaned forward. Is this an accurate layout of Martin's grocery? Hayes studied it, less confident now. Looks about right. This is the chip display by the coolers. Yes, and the register is here 22 FT away, 3 aisles between them. I guess so. You were hiding, terrified with 3 aisles and 22 FT between you and the robbery, but saw his face clearly enough to identify him 3 months later. Hayes shifted. I have good eyesight. A juror wrote something down. Mr. Hayes, when did you give your statement to the police? The next day. Did you return to the store that night? No. You went straight home? Yes. How did you get to the police station the next day? Hayes looked confused. I drove in your own car. Yes. Not a rental car. Hayes froze. What? Simple question. Did you drive a rental car to the police station? I know, my own car. What about the night of the robbery? Harlan jumped up. Objection. Relevance. I'm establishing credibility, Your Honor. Harlan leaned forward, interested. I'll allow it. Answer, Mr. Hayes. Hayes's forehead showed sweat. I don't remember. You don't remember renting a car 3 months ago? I might have. My car was in the shop. Aaliyah pulled a document. Your Honor, Defense Exhibit A. She held up a rental agreement. The courtroom went silent. This is a rental agreement from Quick Rent, dated November 19th, the day before the robbery. The renter is Michael Hayes. The gallery gasped. Harlan shot up. Where did she get that? Public record, Your Honor. Obtained through proper legal request. Harlan studied it. I'll allow it. Continue. Aaliyah turned to Hayes, whose face had paled. Mr. Hayes, why did you need a rental? My car was in the shop. Really? Another document. I have your mechanics records. No service that week. Hayes's jaw clenched. I forget. Maybe the week before. Where is this rental car now? I returned it. Police never examined it? I don't know. You don't know if police examined evidence related to a crime you witnessed? Hayes gripped the armrests. I just returned it. Aaliyah pulled out an enlarged photograph. Do you recognize this license plate? LMR 482. Hayes stared silent. That's your rental car. And this photograph shows it parked outside Martin's grocery at 10:21 p.m., 16 minutes before the robbery. The courtroom erupted. Harlan's gavel pounded. And this Aaliyah produced another photo shows the same vehicle leaving at 10:43 p.m. with 2 occupants. Hayes stood suddenly. This is insane. I'm the victim. Sit down, Mr. Hayes, Harlan commanded. She's twisting everything. Sit down now. Hayes sat, chest heaving. Aaliyah remained calm. Did you know the actual robber before that night? No. Did you coordinate with him? Did someone pay you to identify Marcus Johnson? Hayes's face twisted. I want a lawyer. I'm not answering anymore. The courtroom exploded. Harlan's gavel thundered. Order. Emily stood. Your Honor, the prosecution's case rests on this witness if he's invoking Fifth Amendment rights. Harlan raised his hand. He looked at Harlan with fury. Mr. Harlan, do you have any other evidence linking the defendant to this crime? Harlan stood drained. The store owner's identification. Based on the lineup, this witness confirmed any physical evidence, DNA, fingerprints. Harlan's silence answered. Harlan turned to Hayes. Mr. Hayes, remain available for questioning. Do not leave the jurisdiction. He looked at the jury. Disregard this witness's testimony entirely. Then Harlan did something unexpected. He looked at Aaliyah. Really looked at her. Miss Johnson, that was exceptional work. The words hung in the air. A judge who'd mocked her hours ago, now acknowledging her in front of everyone. The court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. Mr. Harlan, you better have answers. That evening, the video of Aaliyah's cross-examination went viral. Millions of views in hours. News anchors called it the most remarkable courtroom moment of the decade. Legal experts dissected every question. Law professors announced they'd be teaching it in their classes. But Aaliyah didn't watch any of it. She sat with Malik in their small apartment, helping him with homework like it was any other night, trying to pretend her hands weren't still shaking. The next morning, the courthouse steps were packed with 3 times as many people. This time, when Aaliyah walked through, the crowd erupted in applause. Signs read, "Justice for Aaliyah and believe in her." She kept her head down, walked inside with Emily. The courtroom was standing room only. Every major news network had cameras positioned outside. Inside, the energy had completely shifted. People looked at Aaliyah differently now, not as a child playing dress-up, but as someone who'd exposed a conspiracy. Marcus was brought in. When he saw his daughter, he mouthed, "I'm so proud of you." Judge Harlan entered. The room fell silent. He looked different today. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like shame. "Before we begin," Harlan said, his voice quieter than yesterday, "I need to address something." He turned to Aaliyah. "Miss Johnson, would you approach the bench, please? You too, counsel." Aaliyah and Emily walked forward. At the bench, Harlan spoke quietly. "Miss Johnson, what you did yesterday. I've been on the bench for 23 years. I've seen thousands of attorneys. Very few have demonstrated the skill, preparation, and courage you showed." He paused. "I owe you an apology, a public one. I underestimated you severely. I let my preconceptions cloud my judgment. That was wrong." Aaliyah didn't know what to say. She simply nodded. Harlan turned to Harlan. "And you, counselor, better have a very good explanation for how that witness ended up in your case." Harlan stood looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Your Honor, after reviewing the evidence that came to light yesterday, and after interviewing Mr. Hayes this morning." He took a breath. "The state moves to withdraw all charges against Marcus Johnson." The courtroom exploded. Marcus collapsed forward, head in his hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. Emily grabbed Aaliyah's arm, tears streaming down her face. Harlan hammered his gavel. "Order. I want order." When the room quieted, Harlan continued, "Mr. Johnson, please stand." Marcus stood, chains rattling, barely able to hold himself upright. "The charges against you are dismissed with prejudice. You are free to go." Harlan nodded to the bailiff. "Remove those restraints now." The bailiff unlocked the handcuffs. They fell to the floor with a metallic crash that echoed through the silent courtroom. Marcus stared at his free hands like he couldn't believe they were real. "Dad." Aaliyah ran to him. He caught her in his arms, both of them crying, holding each other like they'd never let go. The gallery was on its feet, applause thundering through the room. Even some jurors were wiping tears. Malik burst through the courtroom doors, and Aunt Linda had brought him. He ran to his father and sister, and the 3 of them held each other while flashbulbs popped and people cheered. Harlan didn't stop it. He sat back and let the moment happen. When the noise finally died down, Harlan spoke again. "Miss Johnson, this court has seen many attorneys over the years, few with your skill, none with your courage." He paused. "The legal profession will be very fortunate to have you someday." The applause started again. Harlan turned to Harlan. "As for you, Mr. Harlan, the Bar Association will be receiving a full report. I'm also ordering an immediate review of every case you've prosecuted in the last 5 years, where conviction relied primarily on eyewitness testimony. Harlan said nothing. His career was over and everyone knew it. Harlan adjourned the court. Outside on the courthouse steps, reporters swarmed. Aaliyah stood with her father and brother Emily beside them. "Aaliyah, how does it feel?" a reporter shouted. Marcus answered instead, his arm around his daughter. "My baby girl just saved my life. That's how it feels. What's next for you, Aaliyah?" She looked at her father, then at the cameras. "I'm going back to school. I've got college applications to finish, but I'm also going to keep fighting for people like my dad, people the system tries to throw away. Will you become a lawyer?" Aaliyah smiled. "I already am one. I just need the paperwork to catch up." The crowd laughed and cheered. Later, Emily pulled Aaliyah aside. "I'm leaving the public defender's office, starting my own practice defense work for people who can't afford it." She paused. "I'd like you to intern for me next summer, if you're interested." "I'm interested." "Good, because we've already gotten 43 calls from families who think their loved ones were wrongfully convicted. Apparently, you started something." Aaliyah looked back at the courthouse, at the building where she'd been mocked and dismissed, where she'd proven everyone wrong. "Good," she said. "It's about time someone did." 6 months later, the Johnson family sat around their dinner table together, free, whole. Marcus had been promoted to supervisor. The eviction notice was a memory. Malik's asthma was controlled, and he talked about becoming a lawyer like his sister. Aaliyah's acceptance letters covered the refrigerator. Georgetown Law offered a full scholarship. "Your case study convinced us we need voices like yours." But the biggest change happened beyond their home. Michael Hayes was arrested, turned state's evidence. He'd been paid $5,000 to frame Marcus. 12 other cases were under review. A pattern of wrongful convictions was being exposed. DA Harlan resigned. The state bar opened investigations. Judge Harlan requested reassignment to civil court, admitting he needed to examine his own biases. The system that tried to destroy Marcus Johnson was being held accountable. Aaliyah now worked on her next case. A mother in Cleveland whose son was convicted on questionable eyewitness testimony. The woman had seen Aaliyah's story, reached out, begged for help. Marcus appeared in her doorway. "Saving the world when you should be sleeping." Aaliyah smiled. "Someone has to, Dad." He kissed her forehead. "Your mama would be so proud." After he left, Aaliyah stared at her mother's photo. That woman who'd fought and lost but raised a daughter who refused to accept losing. "I'm just getting started, Mama." "So, here's the question for you. Yes, you right now. When have you been told you're too small to matter? What truth are you afraid to speak? Whose injustice are you ignoring because you think someone else will handle it?" Aaliyah Johnson was 15, with a thrift store blazer and a laptop. No law degree, no money, no power except the power to refuse injustice. And she changed everything. Not because she was special, because she refused to believe she wasn't. Your voice matters. Your courage counts. Your action creates change. Someone needs you to be brave right now. Someone needs you to stand up. Someone needs you to prove that justice isn't about who has power. It's about who has courage to demand it. If this story moved you, share it, like this video, subscribe to Urban Voice for more stories of people who refuse to stay silent. Because every time we share these stories, we remind someone else they're not powerless. The courtroom is everywhere. The judge is watching. It's your turn to speak. A judge who called her a welfare baby ended up apologizing to her in open court. But that's not the part that keeps me up at night. Aaliyah Johnson was 15 years old. No law degree, no connections, just a thrift store blazer, a laptop, and a father she refused to let the system destroy. She exposed what professional lawyers missed for years. DA Harlan prosecuted 47 cases in 3 years, 43 convictions. Every single defendant was black. Judge Harlan presided over 32 of Harlan's cases, 31 guilty verdicts. This wasn't bad luck. This was a machine designed to convict. Professional lawyers, snorts, saw the same evidence Aaliyah found. Timeline contradictions, contaminated lineup photos, GPS alibi data. Aaliyah had what they didn't: time to care, determination to fight, and a father she absolutely refused to lose to a broken system. You know what breaks my heart? Aaliyah shouldn't have had to do this. A 15-year-old girl shouldn't have to become a lawyer to save her innocent father. But she did because nobody else would. And here's what I keep thinking about. How many fathers are sitting in prison right now because their kids didn't have Aaliyah's brilliance, didn't have her resources, didn't even know where to start? If this story moved you, share it. Someone needs to hear it today. Hit subscribe to Urban Voice for more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if this was your family? Aaliyah now helps other families fight wrongful convictions. Sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the only one telling the truth.